How's it hanging, everybody? So today we're talking about these highly divisive Final Fantasy pixel remasters. More specifically, we're going to focus on the first game. That is what I have played so far. I was going to give you my first impressions, and I had not planned on picking these up on Steam. I figured I'd wait until the inevitable, console versions come out and play them that way. But when I saw Max's first impressions video here on YouTube, he is Dreamcast guy. He knows all about Final Fantasy. He's played all of these games many times over, and he's got lots of great things to say as a veteran. So when he had things to say about the game, he kind of sold me on it, and I ended up picking up these three titles. And I wanted to give you my perspective on this game because I am a Final Fantasy noob. I have not even touched Final Fantasy 1 through 5, 1 through 5. So I'm just giving you my impressions of this as this is a new experience I'm having. I have played other old school RPGs. I played like the first Phantasy Star, the first Ys, the first Dragon Quest, but never the first Final Fantasy for whatever reason. But I'm honestly very glad that I waited because this version is quite good, and there was a lot of love that went into this. It's kind of like, for me, that was a bit of a surprise because I didn't necessarily have high expectations, and I think that's a sentiment that many people have had. So these big controversies like this, that's the first big controversy. The second controversy is the sprites, the design choice for the sprites of the game, the characters of the game. They have a redesigned look. They're not the original sprites across all 5 games, I'm pretty sure. They have slightly redesigned, reworked sprites. And for me, it's not a really big deal because I don't have that nostalgia for the original games like some folks do. But they've gone with this very almost sterile, kind of dulled version of the sprites where it's like a very clean color palette. And not necessarily all of the detail that you would get from like Final Fantasy VI. And then for Final Fantasy 1, which I'm playing, obviously these sprites are upgraded to kind of look more like 16-bit sprites. So they've gone with this it seems like they've gone with this like very consistent look for all 6 titles. All 6 titles are going to look very similar. They're kind of running on the same engine, and I'm sure they're very similar to experience. So that's kind of what's going on there. But the third big controversy is the font. For some reason, people are extremely angry at Helvetica Narrow. Everybody is losing their minds over this. Now, I saw the font. I didn't like it either, to be honest. I mean, it's very, it's not the font, right? It's not the font, it's the width. The choice of width for this particular typeface doesn't work. But there is a fix that you can apply here on Steam. This is honestly kind of a bonus point over what you might get on console. I'm hopeful that they fix this, of course, but and it won't be relevant for much longer. But for now, we can just fix the font ourselves. In fact, let me just show you here. Over on Twitter, we've got Wario64 here on Twitter posted this. So I picked up all 3 games on Steam for 36% off using this link right here. I will link this tweet in the description. This is not a personal advertisement. I am not getting any money from this. I'm just pointing it out. But so pretty nice that you can get, basically I got all 3 games for $25. So I was like, okay, that's a solid deal. But then we have this that they link to right underneath. This is from rpgsite.net, and this is the fixed font. As you can see, the fixed font is above, and it just basically uses a normal width font instead of the tiny width font. And it looks great. I was a little apprehensive to do it because I was like, okay, well, is it going to mess up the formatting somewhere? Is it going to mess up the layout? Is text going to be like running off the screen? Is it going to make the game glitch out or something? And nothing like that has happened. So I think that you're safe to do this, at least with this first game. I have not noticed any issues. So I would recommend it. And here is the actual article itself that details how to do it. Very, very simple. like 3 or 4, well, it's 7 steps, I guess. Okay, so 7-step process, but I mean, basically all you're doing is just moving a few files around on the Windows operating system. And if you're used to dragging and dropping files, copying and pasting things, this is an absolute cakewalk. I think it took me literally less than 1 minute to do. So if you are bothered by that font, just know there's a very easy fix out there. But in any case, let me start by saying, isn't it funny when YouTubers say like, now let's start the video, and the video's been going for like 5 minutes. So let me start the video by saying that my favorite thing about this game has to be the music. The music is beautifully remastered by the game's original composer. I can't remember his name exactly. I'm not going to try to butcher it, but he came back to remix and I guess remake, really re-record these songs. And I love the music. The music's already getting like stuck in my head. I feel like it's just so well made. It's like this kind of mishmash of orchestral and medieval folk, and then of course it goes into some like hard rock stuff for boss fights and things like that, or battle sequences. And there's just a lot of really good, really well made, really tastefully done music in this game. So it works just tremendously well, and it just sounds great, and it is just heaven for the ears. So that is my favorite part about this game. But the look of the game is quite good. It doesn't necessarily translate super well into like a trailer. Obviously we're looking at a trailer right now, but this is one of those visual styles that you really just have to experience in the game to really get the full effect, to really appreciate what they're doing with this whole aesthetic. There's moments in the graphics where you'll like go into a cave or something, and then there's a little layer of like particle effects on top, and it looks really nice. And it's not at the level obviously of like Octopath Traveler or something like that, but it is definitely a nice touch. And it's, I would rather have all 6 of these games remade like this than just one of the games with that Octopath like HD 2D remake treatment. Like I would rather just have all 6 games done in this more kind of like, they can crank these out a lot quicker, I think, and it's just an efficient way to remake the game. So I appreciate that level of what they've done here. But lastly, let's just talk about the gameplay, the game itself. The game is actually just very fun to play. And I'm somebody who, like I said, I've played some classic JRPGs lately, never this one, oddly. But, this game, if you know the deal, if you've ever played a classic JRPG, this game is very light on story, which could be a good or bad thing depending on what you're looking for. But for me, I don't mind it at all. I think that the story is just a nice little wisp of a story. There's a little bit of dialogue here and there. You can get a little bit of extra world building and stuff from the NPCs in the game. Your characters are kind of generic, just choose your own fighter, mage, whatever. So they don't have like personalities or stories. They're just kind of hanging out, going into dungeons and stuff, and not saying much. So the story is very light, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And when you add all of the other aesthetic good things happening with the aesthetics of this game, it complements everything very well. The combat is like 80-90% of the game. The combat, the kind of exploration, the dungeon crawling, going around trying to find chests, trying to level up, trying to grind. That's what this game is. All of these old JRPGs are like that, and this one certainly is as well. And this game is, it's another one of those games. So I'm not going to say it's like, better or worse than, Dragon Quest 1 or whatever, but it has some very, very nice quality of life improvements. That first of all, there's an auto battle button. So when you're in battle, you can hit this button that basically whatever your last commands that you gave your party, it will just repeat those. So you can go right into a battle, you can hit that button, whatever your last commands were in the last battle, it'll just load those up and start, just repeating those. And that way you don't have to just manually spam, the attack command for all 4 characters over and over and over again when you're grinding and leveling up. It kind of does some of that lifting for you, and everything still feels very earned. It does not feel like you are cheating or letting the game play itself. Everything feels earned. Everything, you're going through all the same motions, but it's just nice that it goes faster this way. And by the way, the auto battle does actually make the battles go faster in time. So you're probably going to find yourself leaning on that a lot, especially when it comes to grinding or even boss battles that can go on for a while. Anytime you need to stop the auto battle, you can just hit the button again. It stops the auto battle, and then you can do your commands. Then you can go in, do some healing, do whatever you need, and then it'll just use those commands again that you want to give it. You go back into auto battle mode. It's very, very well implemented. Just a very simple quality of life improvement, but very nice. There's also, like when you're in towns and dungeons, there is a run button. So when you're running, I think it puts the game into like 2 or 3 times speed. It's very handy. Of course, we need those speed improvements in old games like this, and I'm so glad that we got one on this one. There's no run button for the overworld map, unfortunately. It only applies to towns and stuff like that. Now, let me end by talking a little bit about the performance. Excuse me. So, quick facts. I am losing my voice right now, and I also don't like editing. So you're going to have to hear me hack a little bit here and there. But let me just end basically by saying that the performance for the game for me was perfect. I didn't run into any real issues. Everything ran smoothly. I will say that when you're just walking around the map or a town or village or dungeon or whatever, when you're just walking around, there's just a very, for me anyway, there's a very small stutter. Like if anybody's played the Final Fantasy or the Dragon Quest 1 through 3 ports, like they're like ports of mobile games ported to console. If anybody's played those, they've got this weird like stutter. So this Final Fantasy game is not nearly as bad as that, but it just feels slightly less than perfect smoothness when you're walking around the map. It's just a little bit of a jitter, but it's not bad, and it wasn't very distracting. It's just something I basically noticed when I first loaded up the game. I think other people have complained about screen tearing. I did not have that problem. I don't think I ever saw screen tearing, but of course you can go into the configuration options are pretty light in this game. Like you can't turn on VSync or anything like that to try to fix issues like that. So hopefully they maybe bring some updates to fix that kind of stuff for some people. And overall, guys, my impressions of this game are very high. I'm glad, honestly, that I picked these up on Steam for a few reasons, really. One, I can fix that font. Two, on Steam, we just get achievements, and that's something that I overlook sometimes. Like if I'm deciding, like, do I want to buy this on the Switch or do I want to buy it on Steam? Do I want to have like the good graphics but be, kind of ball and chain to one machine or one screen, or do I want to have the ability to go hybrid and go around to my living room or handheld? And when I'm thinking about all those things, there's something I usually leave out, and that is Steam achievements. It just gives you a nice little extra layer of objectives to work through if you want. I mean, you don't have to, but this is a game that's pretty quick to beat. That's actually something I need to mention. So that's no longer my last thing. This is now my last thing. This game goes really fast. And because of all the things I just mentioned, the auto battle, the run button, things like that, you will be breezing through this game. And again, it all feels earned. It doesn't feel like you're cheating or rushing or anything like that. But the game does elapse very quickly. There's a lot going on. You can get through dungeons very quickly. You can get out and do all of your grinding very quickly. So it is a very nice touch. I mean, Final Fantasy for the NES, you could look at like the how long to beat page, and it looks like the game could take you anywhere from like 17 to 30 hours to beat. And with me, I only played 3 hours of this game so far, but I've already gotten like a third of the way through the game, at least kind of referencing a walkthrough. That looks to be about where I'm at in this game. So if I can get through this whole game in like 10 hours, that would be amazing, because then I could, you know, get on to the other game and even the third game and like actually get through these games in a sensible amount of time. I mean, I could conceivably play all 6 of these games, which I didn't really plan to do. I mean, you know, I figured I would kind of pick and choose. Excuse me. The first game seems like an obvious one to check out. I mean, it's a little bit shorter and it's the original game, so you would want to check that out. But now I'm like, man, I could breeze through this. And anyway, I'm having a blast with the game. I'm going to stop recording so I can go play it some more tonight. And then if you guys have checked this game out, let me know in the comments what you think about it. And if you like this video, I cover some other JRPG related content here on the channel, so you can subscribe if you want to check that out. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching.